Hello. I wait till that little beat kicks in, and then I pop on. Hello. I'm Heidi Popp. Thank you so much. I see this cute little chat. Let's turn this little sound off. Hello to everyone in the chat from Miss MIA herself. I've been totally MIA this week. Friday night is popping. Hi, Carol. How are you? Castle Dude, I got to catch up with your stuff. You are touring today. I've been super MIA this week. This week kicked my ass. And not the kids at school. They are awesome. So I'm really excited to play with today with my pal Michael Kopf. Michael and I are cyber pals. We've been pals online. I got to be a guest on one of his shows. He has a few series and he has a really cool timeline. So I just want to have a chit chat and a little high vibe human experience. And before I bring him right in, I actually had to go through and be like, which one is this? And this is the 25th high vibe human experience hangout with Heidi. So thank you for being here. And without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, my friend, Mr. Michael Kopf. How's that? Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Yeah, you're Mr. 25. So we're cranking those again. Happy
I
to
know
see
that's
you.
really cool.
That's fun. Thank you for playing. Now you're in the Dallas Fort Worth area, right?
I am.
Doo, 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 doo. You do get a little bit of an accent here and there. Hi, Castle Dude. He
Well,
was.
so
Mhm.
hi, Castle Dude. So my accent is actually because I'm a Yankee and Southerner, so I get a mix of
Hey,
both.
that's awesome. Well, there you go. Happy Friday night, one and all. Happy Friday to the chat, to Mothman, Garrel, Castle Dude. We see you all. And if anyone ever throughout the course of any of this has a question for Mr. Michael, please pop on in and say howdy. And hello to Miss Jane as well. So, Mr. Michael, so I always got to be a guest on one of your series, and this was writing through the unknown, and but you have several others, but you also have a crazy cool journey and bio, and it really starts. This has to do with the paranormal too, peeps. This can be some fun paranormal stuff too, but it starts back at 2 years old. What in the heck happened to you at 2 years old? I don't even know. That was your
So
first.
yeah, and it's gonna be funny because there are parts of it that even I look at and go, I was 2. How did I do that?
What you
So
do?
the experience was I was on the second floor of our house, and there was a vent covering that had a board over it
Mm-hmm.
while we were remodeling. And so I was upstairs looking around, and living where we were, there was a basement as well. So you can imagine basement, first level, second level. And somehow the board was not where it was supposed to be. And
What?
so I go looking at the vent opening, and I'm looking over because I'm feeling like maybe there's something pulling me over. And next thing I know, I'm falling in and I'm on a ride down to the basement.
Oh no!
But here's where it gets interesting. I see this white figure come out of nowhere and is kind of holding me. And I find out from talking with a friend of mine who's a medium that there was a second being, that the first being is the one that pulled me in. And I'm
Oh, whoa!
thinking they're the friendly one, and she's like, no, there was a second one that came and took you away from the one that meant you harm. And I had this, what I felt like was, had to be like a 5-10 minute conversation. But you can imagine falling down a vent. There is no 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah,
So
no.
I was pulled out of time, and as a teenager, I started realizing I had talked to the being that saved me from the other one, and I was like, if I'm gonna come and do what I'm supposed to do. I need to have these gifts. I need to have these abilities, and I need to be able to access them when I'm ready.
Mhm.
And they were like, okay, so I got put back in, and I hit the concrete of the basement.
Oh my
No
gosh, like,
broken bones, no muscle damage,
holy smoke.
no torn ligaments, nothing. The only thing that happened, I don't know if y'all can see, is my eyebrow got cut in one spot by a wire, and the hair does not grow.
Oh, that was it though.
Yeah, that
Holy
was it.
smoke.
It was
Did you
done.
bounce? I always want to know, do babies bounce?
I don't have a memory if I bounced or not. I just
Oh
know
my
I got up and I was like, just shook it off and was like, okay, like nothing happened. But I was like, there, yeah, to fall from the second level to a concrete basement and not get hurt was
Oh my.
astonishing to me.
And was it like a Goonies ride? Like it was fun? Or were you like straight down? Or was you
You
like ding,
know,
ding, ding, ding,
I'd
ding?
have
You
to ask
don't,
my mom that. I don't know if
yeah.
it was straight down.
I'm floored you weren't hurt. I mean, I know babies are pliable and baby, 2-year-old to me is still baby, toddler. But I get it that you're a little more rubbery, but my gosh, that you really something helped you, I think, because that's a huge drop.
It
Oh
is.
my, and then to have a 10-minute conversation to boot.
I
It's
know.
pretty
I'm
epic.
like, and remember when I said there was something that happened that even I can't explain it? It shocks me. Is what 2-year-old has that conversation?
I was gonna go there next. Yep. I am I'm telling you have to tell us more of that, but I'm just gonna say, Neil, um, yeah, you fell into a basement at 2 years old, and Neil still lives in his mom's basement, so just kidding, Neil. It's a joke. One-eyed Willie. Yep, he liked my
Yep.
Goonies reference. I knew with you, Michael, I can bring out all the taglines. Some people are
Oh
like,
yeah.
"What is she saying?" I'm like, "Michael will get it."
Oh, I know. And my favorite tagline from that movie, I'm not gonna go loud because of your headphones, but was the "Hey,
Ah,
you guys."
it's the best. The best.
Or there was the other one, "Baby Ruth."
Oh, the best. We still use that one. I've been there. I was there at the Light Castle. We have VHS of us standing in front of the lighthouse with like, it's the set. Oh, I think I told you that on yours. But wait, getting past this is a serious thing. When you went to did you do a regression or something as a teenager? Like, how did you find out more about what happened to you at 2? And did you have any recall of that conversation? I want to hear
So
more of
when
that.
I became a teenager is when I got the recall of the conversation and that somebody carried me down.
Mhm.
But it wasn't until my 30s, talking with a medium, that she said, "There's more to this story than you think." And I always thought I was in the attic. So I added a level when I tell the story. And my mom corrected me this year and said, there was no attic. You were not in the attic. Stop telling people you were in the attic. You were on the second floor.
We all love to embellish. But maybe in your child's mind's eye, that felt like the attic up there. It was so far up.
I
Oh my
know. And,
god.
but yeah, I mean, I just had memories come in, and then just sharing the story with my medium friend. Yeah, she like started adding pieces to it, and then when I talked to her on another occasion, she'd add another piece, and that's what I love about being in the paranormal field is everything is gathering pieces to a
Yeah.
puzzle and finding
Yeah.
answers.
Yeah.
And
Well,
so is
you
life.
that's life. Yeah. The cards you get handled, you got to pull from your Rolodex of experiences and put it all together. With the paranormal, because that's your focus, really. I mean, we have passion of theater and improv and all that good stuff. I know we're going to get into that too, but you have like in your 20s, did you start channeling, or that's when you started seeing channelers? I think you started saying you started to
I
experience some of that.
I
Mhm.
started channeling a little bit, and
Mhm.
It was an experience because growing up, I was always around people who channeled, and so I was like, okay. So I grew up spiritual in the
Mhm.
spiritual community. So all these paranormal experiences that I was having, in my mind, I was like, oh, these are just metaphysical, spiritual experiences. Everybody has those, nothing special. And so until I started paranormal investigating was when I realized, wait a minute, all these things that I thought were just regular everyday occurrences are really paranormal experiences and not so regular.
I know that. I was like, not everyone sees fairies. It's like, does this cut to your like some more paranormal experiences? You have to share some of those, but I do know you talked about you had a few NDEs too, right? Near death experiences. Were
I
those
did.
were those how did those line up with your do they line up with your paranormal experiences or what happened with that? Or did senses get heightened after? Or tell us more, Michael. I'm thinking,
Actually,
yeah.
they
Mhm.
happened before I was investigating the paranormal.
Oh, is the
And
toddler thing one of them? Is
no,
that
actually,
oh, oh my gosh.
but
Okay.
I probably should count that one, but I don't.
Yeah. So you could add it to the roster.
But
Hey,
the
Chelsea.
one main NDE that I talk about was I was so to preface this, I never get sick. It's like I can walk into a room where there's cold and flu and walk out and be totally fine.
I wish
It's
my kids
like
were like that. They're
the
both down
most
again. Mhm.
yeah, when I get the 24-hour flu or cold, I have it for like 3 or 4 hours and then I'm done with it.
What? Look at you.
And so I was at home and all of a suddenly being really hot natured, I was like, my bones felt like they were turning to ice. And I was like,
Whoa.
this feels weird. And I had long sleeve shirt on, and this is the summertime. And I got pants on, and I'm like, okay, I should not be feeling cold.
Yeah.
Then I put a blanket on, and I call my mom, and I'm like, I think something's off. I may not be to work tomorrow because I'm starting to feel really cold. And she goes, well, just go to sleep. We'll see how you are in the morning. And because she's used to me. If I am sick, it'll probably be cleared up while I'm
Quick.
sleeping.
Yeah.
So not
Did
gonna
you
take
think
a day off.
it was a fever? Did you feel those chills and you're like, I just have a fever or something? Or you probably didn't even get those.
I didn't know what was going on, and
Oh
so
yeah.
I put two blankets on and trying to warm up, and then I went from my living room to my hallway, which goes from hardwood floor to carpet. So I'm like, I'm sharing that because there's a reason why I say carpet.
Okay.
I get to my room and my bed is a four-post real wood bed. So you can imagine solid wood, round. Well, next thing I know, I'm walking and I'm like, now I'm really feeling chilled. But then my eyesight kind of gets a little blurry. And next thing I know, I'm on the floor and my chin really hurts. And
Oh
time has
no.
passed. And I'm like, what is going on? And I got this mark on my chin. And I realized I must have passed out, hit my chin on the bedpost. And when I came to, I was like, now I feel really weird.
Mhm.
It's like my whole body is like feeling different. And so, not to get too gruesome, but when you hear of like tissue regenerating, the body expels the old tissue for the new.
Uh-huh.
That actually happened to me. I
Okay.
got into the bathroom and I was like, I ended up having to clean the sink, clean the countertop, clean the floor because I had no warning, just went. And then I was like, all of a sudden, I was like, well, now I feel like myself again, but now I can hear this. And I start noticing I have a couple of different abilities now
Really?
that are kicking in, and so it's like apparently it was decided when I was 2, when I want an NDE, the body shuts down, or want the abilities to unlock, the body shuts down.
Oh, I've heard.
Bringing in the
Yeah.
new abilities, um,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think what the word is when the body
Like
assimilate
activates or oh. Mhm.
and assimilates the new info in, and it's like, okay, we're rebooting, we're good to go, and it's like, okay, and I'm like, think I finally was saying to them, look, there's got to be an easier way. You can't just take me out like that.
That was a little volatile. So you're saying when you fell down and you got your chin, you did that, and then when you got up and cleaned yourself up, that no more chills, no more. You were back
No,
to. You just went back to yourself, normal self.
yeah,
Totally,
and
that was
I
wow.
think it was like, I don't know if it was like half hour to an hour's amount of time had passed. And at first, I didn't call it an NDE because I was like, I don't have the hospital records to say, whether I was living or
I
not. But I was
yeah.
like, hey, I got missing time. I was
Yeah.
out of it. I'm counting it.
Yeah, count it. And some people probably have died from falling and hitting their heads. I mean, it happens. That's crazy. You have to share another one. Here's Neil sharing one with his mom.
But
She had one when his mom was giving birth to his big brother. She went through a tunnel to a bright light and saw an ET like this, like that emoji. I would make me laugh. But white. Wow.
well,
Did she
here's
ever
the
talk? Yeah.
here's the interesting thing too, Heidi, is
Uh-huh.
I was saying that, like, not only do I get the feeling better faster, but my healing, I have healing attributes. The mark on my chin was gone in a day or two.
Oh my god! Was it
So I was
well, you
like,
had blood all over your bathroom. It must have been a gusher. Oh, yeah, okay, you're something else there, Mr. Michael. I'm just saying.
now the second one
Uh-huh.
I had, I was just feeling really weird, and again, but I laid down and I think I just went out. And when I came to, like 2 or 3 hours had passed.
Oh my gosh.
And I wasn't asleep. I know I wasn't sleeping. It was just out. And I came to and I was like, where am I? What's what just happened? And the reason I know time had passed is because I was watching a show on TV, and the TV had advanced to like 2 more hours, and I was like, wait, what how did I miss the end of this episode? And that's where my mind went. When I came to, it was like, wait, how
You're
did
like,
I miss
"Wow."
this, and this? And it's like I wasn't even thinking about, oh, I had just died, possibly.
Well, wait,
And
but you didn't take a nap? You just didn't nod off, you're saying?
no, I just suddenly was out and then came to, and I was like, well, now I have understanding of something. It's like instead of having abilities, I think I got knowledge on this one, because all of a sudden I was like, well, now that I think about this topic, well, that would correlate to the, and it's like I start putting all these pieces together, and I'm like, where are these pieces even coming from?
Wow.
Where did this topic even come from? And it's like all of a suddenly, yeah, it's like I had recall of stuff I had never even heard of,
You
and
just got
I was
put in
like,
a new chip.
yeah,
Just kidding. Wow.
I felt
Um,
like Neo and
that's what I was
uh,
picturing.
what's her name, Trinity on the Matrix, going, okay, we need an upload.
That's what I was picturing. Yep, that's exactly it. It's the same wavelength. Holy smokes. How old were you with that one? Or how old were
That
these?
I think I was in my early 30s.
Okay. Okay. And we're I think yeah, you're a few years younger. But you had something with the cruises. Does this have to go around that time frame? Because you had a bunch of things around cruise ships and traveling in different countries where stuff was happening to you. Was this
So
before or
these
after
all
that?
took place before that. So
Before that. Okay.
right
Good night, Neil.
now,
He
good
see we
night,
caught
Neil.
him. And Miss
But
Sandy. Okay. You put the new definition to NDE, Michael.
well, thank
Our
you.
beautiful friend Sandy.
Everyone has their own, so that's what I love about it is there is no set definition. So everyone's experiences are unique.
Yeah. So that those two experiences were before those cruise things, and yes, everyone does have unique experiences. But am I
Yeah.
going too fast? Because I'm like, I'm gonna go through your
No,
timeline because you got a cool timeline. Is the cruise ship thing kind of next? No, you were a reverend too. I'm trying going off now. I'm going off memory, right? You're Reiki
so
master and reverend.
right. When I was a
I know.
little
Mhm.
kid, probably preteens, I took Reiki with my mom, and they were going around and saying, "Okay, we're putting this and this in. We're doing this or that." And they came to me and they're like, "Well, you're a natural." So I was like, "Well, then I don't need to take any more classes." Typical kid. And then my late 20s, I go and looking at a friend who does Reiki, and I was like, something inside me goes, you talk to him. And I'm like, why? I'm natural at this. I don't need someone to teach me. Apparently, I'm natural, but I was like, okay. So the first people that taught me Reiki were like, here's the symbols. You use the energy this way, and that's it. Well, in talking to my friend who happens to be named Neil,
Uh, oh, he went to bed.
it's a different Neil, but he goes and he's talking with me and he goes, so you've already done one. I said, yes. And this is what they told me. He goes, well, I'll let you sit in on the class and, see what you think since you've already done it. And I think they call it auditing now, auditing the class.
Yeah, but I think that's a word too for Scientology, so I don't know. Okay. Yes, when you audit, you sit in. We
So I'm going through his class, and all of a sudden he's like telling people, so if you're picking up the blockage or implant or energy issues on the right side, I think that's the feminine side. So that could deal with mother or grandmother or female friend. And I'm like, wait, what? I was like, wait, you're reading what's going on, and it was like, yeah. And so he then was like, the opposite side left would be masculine, father, grandfather, could be male friend, and it's like, whoa, wait a minute, this is not the Reiki I saw. So then I got into it and went and took Reiki 2, 3. And when it came to 3, he goes, well, for $50 more, I'll give you master. And I was like, what's master? He goes, you can teach. I was like, why not?
for
It's a good
50 bucks,
deal.
that's a steal.
So that's how I got those. And I started doing
Oh, okay.
Reiki, and we started realizing, there are occasions where I don't know if you've ever seen anyone doing Reiki is they hover their hands above, but sometimes the energy is so that you really want to get contact with it. So you put like your hand on their arm where it is to really get it going.
Mhm.
And we were thinking, wait a minute, if we're all doing mediumship, all this energy work. We're like, we really should protect ourselves. Well, what's the best way to do that? We went and took a 2.5 year course and got a reverend's license.
Oh, that's how it worked together. That's awesome. Look at you.
So
I'm
yeah,
Quest
so
Child.
and
Yes.
I love to tell people, I was like, I stress in there, I did a 2.5 year study because I was like, Yes, this isn't one of those. I went online, filled out a form, and 5
Yeah.
minutes later, I was ordained. I was like, nope. I put the time in, studied. This wasn't regular. I think they call it non-denominational because we did not do
Mhm.
dogma. But the funny
Mhm.
thing was, is to graduate, we had to write sermons. Well, all through college, I could write paper like a 10-page paper in like an hour, double spaced. I,
Gee.
I've always been really good at. I can go and pick a
Wow.
topic out of an index, write a
Did people
paper
pay
about
you?
it.
Did people pay you to write their papers? I would've.
You know, I wish I had thought about that, but no, I never did.
Oh,
But
wow.
so it would come due date for the sermons, and I would write them like pretty much right before we walked out the door to go to class.
You
And
just you
when I would,
channel it. There's your channeling.
yeah, and
Mhm.
when the teacher would read it, she would be like, every once would be getting critiqued, and I was like, oh, I just know she's gonna know I did not put a lot of thought mentally into this, and it was done last minute. And apparently, whoever channeled the information for me did really well because both times she came to my sermon, she read it and wrote, and her only comment was, "This is really well written. You really got the idea and the concept." I was like, "Yes."
Nice. Nice. Some do crank out stuff. I mean, when you do channel writing or you do stuff like, I love that stuff. But if you're giving a sermon, yeah, I'd be a little nervous to do a last minute one. But look at you. That's a lot of trust right there.
I know, and the funny thing is those are the only times I've ever used that skill.
Oh,
I
wow.
I have
Okay.
never channel written on
Huh.
location
Okay.
or even tried with the paranormal. It's like, nope.
Okay.
I'm
All
like,
right.
apparently I reserved that just for schooling.
For schooling and sermons. Well, speaking of you being investigating, let's get into all that stuff. Or did the cruise what happened with the cruise ship thing? It seemed like it's important. You had Rome, like these Spain stuff happened like 2012, 13, like around there. Were there something monumental happening with the paranormal there? I know you joined some investigative teams later on, but um, tell us more,
So
Michael.
so what ends up
Thanks, Jen.
happening is I volunteer at a performing arts center.
Hey, oh, the same one?
The same one I'm at now, yeah.
Yeah,
And
nice, cool.
I was trying to get someone to stop them from going through a door they weren't supposed to go through. And apparently there's two levels of terrazzo with like 5 steps in between.
Uh-huh.
Well, apparently I'm used to skipping steps so I can get down faster.
Mhm.
Well, this time, apparently I missed them all and landed on my left leg. And I was like, I couldn't stand on it very long. I found myself starting to sit down and I was like, something's not right.
Oh,
And
no.
so I get up the first time, take a couple steps, and I'm like, nope, I can't put pressure on this. So I sit back down. I'm like, take a breath, and I'm like, okay, body will do what it needs to do. I heal fast. If I broke, if something's wrong, I'll just walk it off. No big deal. So I get
Mhm.
up a second time, and this time when I went to step, I couldn't put any weight on it, and I was like, nope, not walking this time.
Oh,
So
no.
then the third time, I'm about to stand up and walk. My boss comes around the corner, sees me on the floor, and is like, what happened? You are ghostly white. All the color has left my
Ooh.
skin. And I was like, I don't know. I remember being on this level, then I was down here, and my leg is kind of hurting. I'm just going to walk it off. She goes, nope, stay where you are. We're calling an ambulance.
Oh, no.
We're going to get this checked and taken care of. And I was like, no, I don't need an ambulance. I'll just get in my car and drive over if I have to. And she's like,
As your legs dangling behind you. Aw.
she goes, I'm playing the mom card. You are going in the ambulance and getting this checked out. So I was like, all right, not gonna argue. So then the paramedics come and they're like, yes, it feels like your leg is broken.
Ooh.
And I was like, really? I was like, I just thought I'd pulled a muscle. And I was like, it's like figuring the muscle will ease up.
Yeah.
And I even said to the paramedics at that point, I was like, well, I'm really sorry you guys drove all the way over here. I'll just get in my parents' back seat when they get here and we'll go over to the hospital. And he goes, you don't understand. We have to immobilize your leg so you don't damage it more.
Oof.
And I'm like, okay. And he goes, but this is going to hurt. And I go,
Oof.
what are you talking about? And they put this thing on my leg and pushed down. And I was like, ow.
That's what you did?
And they're like, I'm like, what are
Ow.
you doing? I thought you said you couldn't damage my leg. And here you're putting this pressure on it. And so I get to the ER and we're like, the emergency room. And the doctor comes in and he's like, so were you in a car accident? I go, no. He goes, well, your leg is broken underneath the joint, and we're going to have to put you in a temporary cast, and you're going to have to go see an orthopedic to get this put back together. This is going to need surgery. And I was like, oh, crap.
Oh my gosh.
And meanwhile, in my head, I'm like, I'm still thinking I could just walk this off. And I'm like, it can't be broken. I would know it's broken. And
Had they x-rayed at this point?
yeah, they did x-ray it.
Oh, and they
And
saw a
so
break.
right. And
But
to
you got
put the cast on, they put more pressure down on the leg. And I'm like, you guys realize my leg is broken. Why are you keep pushing down on my
they're
broken
putting
leg?
it back together. No. Oh
And
my gosh.
so our family, we always viewed ourselves as being lucky,
Yeah.
about how life works itself out. So the orthopedic I get is one of the top orthopedics. And he comes in. We didn't pick him. He was just, the one who came up. And we're like, so what's going on? And he goes, well, I got to tell you, I won't know until I open it up, but we're going to need two metal plates, probably 9 to 12 screws, and I'll try and get your leg back together as best I can.
Oh
And
gee.
he's like, and did you have your tibial plateau? Because it's been disintegrated, so we're gonna get you another one. And
What
I'm
is
like,
that?
what?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So then he goes and we're about to go into surgery, and he goes, I hope to save the leg. And I'm out. And I have no
You
memory of anything.
you said, "I hope to save your leg," and then you're out? So you think
So then I
did you have
come
dreams of
to,
hobbling? Oh my
uh,
god.
so you would think I'd have an NDE at this point. Nope.
Yeah.
I just apparently slept through the surgery, being so medicated.
Oh my
And when
god.
I came to, he goes, I have to say, I'm really impressed because the way your leg was broken, you would think you were in a car accident, but you did not damage any muscles. Your ligaments were totally fine. We had to cut one nerve so that we could get to the bone. And all your bone pieces in your joint was put back together perfectly. And I was like, really? He goes, and I'm
Yeah.
like, wait, so I had fragments moving around in my leg and nothing tore anything? So he goes and says, so you'll be like, we'll take the stitches out and then you'll be bedridden for, until your bone is accepted the metal and everything is looking good. Then we'll get you into physical therapy. Well, I keep asking every weekly appointment, can I start the PT now? And he's like, no. But what was interesting is on one of my visits, and this is something that I think everyone needs to know. When I stood up, there was a sharp pain for like 2, 3 seconds in my leg, and then
Mhm.
it stopped.
Mhm.
And I told him about this, and I got rushed over to the hospital and had I think was it sonogram done, and they found a blood clot in my leg.
Oh no.
And and I said, how did you know I had a blood clot? He goes, because of the way you described your pain, had to be a clot somewhere in your leg. And he said, you are so lucky we had this appointment because it was in the groin area. And if you know how blood flows with the body, the next stop was either the brain or the heart, which are fatal to get a clot. So I was
Jeez.
like, okay, so luck happens again. So I get the blood
Yeah.
clot taken care of.
But
I
what
get
was
the
that
stitch
sign again, though? What was the sign? It was a
when
sharp shooting pain because
when
we all
you
get those. Mhm.
so when you're laying down and you get up and you don't put pressure on the leg that's in the cast or anything,
Mhm.
and there's a sharp temporary pain real short, that was the sign because
In the cast leg? In the
right,
cast leg? I gotcha.
because he
Gotcha.
he kept saying, so
Wow.
you
Okay.
put your foot on the ground. I said no, I hadn't put my foot on the ground yet. It was just when it got vertical I would feel
Wow.
that temporary pain, and then I would put my foot on the ground and it wouldn't really hurt.
Mm,
And he was like,
dang.
yeah, that was the sign. So
So, Medical Miracle Man. That's your that's your new
So I
nickname.
just telling people if you get that, don't be hiding that from your doctors because you might be
Wow.
having an issue.
Yeah. Well, that I because it wasn't making sense for a minute about the pain and then but now if you say if you're not putting the pressure on it and it's not yeah, it's making more sense with that. But I didn't know they can catch them like that either.
Yeah.
And that was a sonogram you said? Was that
I
they
think
saw?
that's what they call it when they check the
Gotcha.
blood and everything
Whew,
through the body.
dang. Well, how long did you have to heal from this? The leg? Was it
So the surgery happened in August. In November, I was in physical therapy.
Oh wow.
And in December, I went to Hawaii.
Oh.
So that was what was pushing everything that's why I kept saying to him, I want to get the PT started because
You
I
wanna be
want to go.
ready.
Got this cruise to Hawaii. I'm not missing this cruise. I'm like, it's Hawaii. Come on.
Did you set off the metal detectors? Are you like the metal
No,
detector guy now? No?
that was the funny thing is we get to the airport and I have the card in my hand that says I have metal in my leg. They won't let you take the crutches through the scanner. You have to hobble your way through.
Wow.
But
Mhm.
either my mom who would walk in front of me or a stranger behind me would show up with metal in their leg. It did not show up on me.
Wow. Okay.
And so it became this running joke of they would pull her aside and go, where do you have metal on you? And she's like, I don't have any metal on me. My son is the one with the metal. And they go, well, the scanner went off for you, not
Wow.
him. So
Oh,
you're
that's a mom
hiding metal.
thing.
And
She
we're
took
like,
on your pains.
they
Aw.
wanded her, nothing. But according to the X-ray image, she had metal in her leg, but the wand
Wow.
would not go off, and they would not wand me because they were
Wow.
like, "We're not wanding you because you didn't have any on the imagery." So I'm like, I stopped taking the card out and just kept it in my wallet.
Oh, that good old system. Still
But
does a great
so the
job.
next year, I get it. So, well, actually, hold on. So we get to Hawaii, and I'm walking on the cruise ship with crutches, and I have set to do in Maui this thing called snuba, which is part scuba, part um,
Snorkeling, right?
snorkeling.
Yeah.
Thank you. I couldn't think of the word.
Hi,
So
Joe.
I go on this, and the first thing the guy says is, if you've had any surgeries within a year or 6 months, you can't do this. We
Oh,
we
geez.
can't let
You
you
were like
do
2
it. And
months.
I'm like, get good money for this, and I'm like struggling to get my fin on, and this guy sits down next to me and goes, "Hang with me, I got you." And I was like, okay, no idea who this person is. So I get my fins on, we go in the water, and we come out, then we go to where we're gonna go do the actual scuba part and go. And so I got the breath mask in, and I'm floating like I'm supposed to down, and I grab a hold of the dirt on the bottom of the bay, and I'm like watching it sit through my hands, and I'm like, this is so cool.
Mm,
And I'm
awesome.
like, and I probably, and I feel like there probably was energy there, but I just was so enthralled with, going, who was here that now I'm touching where they were historically in the
Hmm.
past, and so my mind is there. We come up, and I go to take my fins off, and I thank the gentleman, and I get off. We get to the ship, and then we're running late. And
Okay.
so, because it's through the cruise ship, they can't leave until I'm there. So security is calling up,
Oh, no.
wondering where I'm at,
They have
and
videos of these kind of peeps that are late.
I'm answering the
Good
phone,
job,
and they're
Michael.
like, "We're trying to figure out where you are." I'm like, "I just boarded the ship. I'm in the room." I go to dinner, and here's the thing: I'm not using my crutches anymore.
Since the swim?
Yeah. So
Since
whatever
the swim.
happened in the bay in Maui, my body automatically reset itself to where I could walk normal.
And that was just a couple weeks after PT?
That was
What?
like probably a month's worth of PT before that.
Okay.
I
Look at
just barely
you.
got it done.
Jeez, Mr. Healer Man.
So
Did
go
did
ahead.
you did you find out who that fellow was that assisted you, or was he was on the same cruise ship, right? Or did you
No, he
find
wasn't
a
on the cruise
connection
ship.
there?
I
Oh,
never
it
seen
was
him
just a
again.
service.
So I feel
Wow.
like he was either an angel or a guide or somebody that was just there to help
Mhm.
me to get this experience.
Mhm. So it sounds like. Oh, that's really sweet.
So what's even more interesting is, so my work at the time was where I was working with the forensic engineer, my father, and so I
Mhm.
would go into crawl spaces. So I'd have to crawl. So I call up the orthopedic, and I'm like, it's been a year. I can't do my job because the metal is hurting my leg. And so he goes, well, come on in. He goes and takes an x-ray, and he looks at me, and he kind of smiles, and he goes, well, you have a choice to make. And I said, oh boy. I'm sitting here thinking, so it's either quit my job or see if I can do something else.
Yeah.
No, it's, I can leave the metal in if I want, or I can take it out. It's serving no purpose. The leg has rebuilt itself. And so I was like, let's get rid of it. I don't want
Yeah,
more.
yeah. But what was
So
that time frame? What was that?
one
You said
year,
a year later? 1 year
yeah,
later, and
like
you're
I
all
feel
back
like
to
it
normal.
was a year.
Okay.
It could have been two, but it felt like a year for
Aw.
me. And so, and here's the more interesting thing. Remember how I said I broke it in August?
Yeah.
To get it removed was in August. It was like the same month.
Jeez.
But I'm like, all right, let's flay her open. Let's get that out. And I'm like, and he goes, now the only good thing will be is you're not going to need PT after this. You'll be able to get up and walk. No big
Wow.
deal. And I was like, okay. So we get the metal out, and he goes, now, the most important thing you have to do now is don't fall on this leg. So I'm like, all right, I can do that. I'm really careful. I'm cautious. No big deal. So time goes by, and we're on a transatlantic and Mediterranean cruise we were doing back to back.
Yes, Mr. Cruise Man.
So
Look at you.
this is
Yeah.
where the Spain comes into play
Okay.
that you were asking for.
Mm-hmm.
And I go,
This is 2012, right?
I believe so, yes.
So that related. Okay. Because that's a big year.
And yeah,
Hmm.
2012. So I get off and it's been raining. So I'm like, okay, so I'm walking really carefully and I turn the corner and before I can look what's going on, my leg slips out and smacks down on a metal strip on the ground
Oh
of the
no.
terminal. I don't even go into town. I and I'm like, my leg is hurting,
Oh
and
no.
I look down. It's my broken leg
Oh
that was
geez.
broken that hit the ground. And I'm like, oh my God. And my parents come around the corner and I'm on the ground holding my leg. They're like, what happened? I was like, my knee just smacked the concrete. It's wet. So they pick me up. We go back on the ship and I'm laying down on the couch in the room. And my mom goes, do you want ice? And I go, sure, yeah. I'll put an ice pack on it. And I'm laying with my head towards the door to the balcony, which is over the water. And I know my dad's around, but all of a suddenly I hear this big booming voice says, who are you? And I go, I beg your pardon? And he goes, who are you? And I'm like, I'm Michael. And he goes, who are you? And I go, well, I'm Michael. Oh, I do Reiki work. I can heal people and help people. And he
Um,
goes, what is your element? And I'm like, what is my element? What kind of questions are these? And
it's
so I
Pokemon trainer.
go, water. And he goes, where are you? And I'm like, I'm on the ocean. I'm on the ocean. So all of a suddenly, I surround myself with the element of water, and my leg starts to feel better. And I'm
Oh.
running it all through,
Oh.
and my mom comes back with the ice, and I'm like, kind of like looking at her, going, "Don't need the ice really anymore now." She's
It's
like,
like
"What?"
minutes.
And so I put it on anyway, and we're like, "What just happened?" And I'm telling them the story, and I said, I felt myself surrounded by water and it going through and just doing whatever it did, and the pain stopped. Well, we then decide, well, what do we do? So we were like, it's time to eat. We missed the town, so couldn't go to shore, but I was able to walk to dinner totally fine. So no damage. But I was like, man, it was so amazing how the mind took over. And I was so freaking out because I did the one thing I was told not to do
So then
on
you
that
started
leg.
spiraling, right? Then you started
Yeah,
spiraling down, but then you remembered who you were and you're like, oh no, never mind, I'm better.
yeah,
That's awesome. What a sweet lesson. That's a really, what? That's a cute story. I want to share that with my class if you don't mind.
go for it.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful. That's a really sweet lesson. Oh, did that must have happened often then. So is this what you're finding is the paranormal that's recurring for you a lot? Is the healing and the being able to tap into the elements and stuff?
Actually, ironically, no.
No?
I tap into elements, but I really don't use them for investigating. But if somebody has something, I'll use it to help them clear any attachments or anything.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
yeah, and so
Okay.
the
Hi,
next
Wild Bear.
year I
Mhm.
end up in. I'm trying to even remember my own timeline because there's so many things on it.
I wrote something. Florence, Rome. Oh, Egypt. There's Egypt stories too, I think. I was reading off his
Oh,
bio, everybody, but I didn't know the stories of the bio yet. But he's
so
full
in
of stories.
Egypt,
Oh, can I interrupt you 1 second though? Because
sure.
my pal Joe Fox, he's on writing from Facebook, but you might recognize him, Joe, because I was on his show a couple weeks ago, right? Maybe a month now.
I think it was a few weeks.
Yeah, he's a host of a couple series. So Michael Kopf, you might know him from that. So I just want to share that.
Yeah,
I was
April
on
3rd, you were on my
April
show.
3rd. There you go. So you might have seen him from there. I don't know, maybe.
Yeah.
And I re-aired it. So where does Egypt come in? 'Cause that sounds juicy
So
too.
Egypt, we're taking a what I found out was later called a river cruise. I didn't realize we were on a river cruise,
You
but
just thought you were in a boat in the
well,
in the
we're going
States.
up the Nile and we're stopping at temples, and so I'm thinking, this is just how people travel, to go to these temples. Until I saw a Viking River Cruise commercial where they advertise how they do it, I was like, oh, apparently
As
I
a
just
river
took a
cruise.
cruise. But we would go to temple during the day and experience it. And then at night, we would all have dinner. And then some of the people would be like some of the ladies would be like, oh, my body's kind of aching here and there. And one of them goes, well, Michael, you do Reiki? I go, yeah. So I ended up doing Reiki on everyone who asked after dinner.
Nice.
So I was going session to session.
What
real-
party? What party trick you got?
And I was able to excuse me. I was able to pull from the Nile, which was a new experience for me because I'm feeling the energy of the Nile, and I'm like, okay, pushing it through
Mhm.
and helping everyone, and everybody was like, got great night's sleep, and it was like it became, the nightly thing is I didn't even have to ask. It was like everyone just started raising their hand. I was like, all right, I'm done eating. I'll come around.
Aw,
But
that's sweet, Michael. Mhm.
yeah, and so we're experiencing all the temples, and I start to realize we're doing the temples that are starting to resonate with the chakras. And
Oh,
we started root, and we were working our way up to the crown, which was the Great Pyramids. And we're going along, and William Henry was the host, and he's a friend of mine, and so he was giving us the spiritual side and esoteric side of the temples, and how it's relating to this energy and how it mimics this, and so we're all like, this is really cool. So we're stepping through, and every one of us that was on there said to each other, when we would walk to the temples, you literally could feel yourself back in time, walking as the pharaohs and all the people did back then, because it's identical. It's like nothing's changed. So
cool.
it's like you really feel yourself walking where they walked. And so it's like your mind really starts to be like, you don't see the ruins anymore. It's like you see everything in its full grandeur, even though it's not that way anymore.
Mhm.
But it's like, and the energy was just intense in a good way. It's like you could really feel yourself growing and everything. And so we get at the end is where the big experience is. So we climb into the Great Pyramid. We actually go inside to the king's chamber, and there's a black obsidian sarcophagi case where there's no
Mhm.
top. But here's the interesting thing. There's no cut marks or welding marks on this black obsidian slab that they would put their sarcophagus in. which was about 10 times bigger than the entrance hole to the king's chamber. So we're like, how did they get this in here?
Or did they build around it?
And yeah, they had to build around it,
Yeah.
and it's at the top. So you had to think, did they start at the top and build the pyramid down? And it's like starts to question, you start questioning and everything. And William goes and says, who wants to go inside? And you
Mhm.
can lay down in this black obsidian.
Oh, wow.
So we're all like, oh yeah, we're all raising our hands. So he taps the corner at your left foot with the tuning fork, and then he taps your right shoulder corner with the tuning fork. And
Mhm.
you can hear all of the tone frequency in there.
Mm.
And for me, what ends up happening is it feels like there's a doorway that opens, and you know how you slide, it's like somebody lifts it up and you slide out.
Mhm.
Well, I felt like I was sliding away, and I was like, what's going on? I've never left my body this way. And all of a sudden, I'm in this like foggy, cloudy, misty area, and I'm like, what's going on? And I get to a clearing, and there's all the Egyptian gods. And I'm like, so I walk up and I'm standing there, and they all turn and look at me. And you know how when I was 2, I had the weird conversation with
Yes.
spirit? I actually went up to the Egyptian gods and said, do you see what's happening in your country and to your people? And it's like, I was like getting mad. It's like, I'm sitting there thinking, what guts do I have to
Of
go
all
up to the
things.
gods and say, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Why are you letting this happen? And I
What
don't
did that
remember
do?
getting an answer, but it's like I'm there, and I remember, they were all okay with me being there. And then, we got pulled back in, and so everyone had different experiences being in the sarcophagus.
Okay.
Well, this is where it gets even more interesting is we went from the king's chamber to the queen's chamber.
Mhm.
My mind has no memory going in the queen's chamber. All my
Oh.
friends that I still talk to about it are like, you were in there. You seen it. You walked around it. And I'm like, I don't I couldn't describe it to you. I'm
And you
like,
have no
I have like
recollection.
it's completely blank. And I'm
Huh.
like, I must have still been processing the king's chamber. And my friend had an experience in the queen's chamber.
Mhm.
And then we all left. And so the cool thing that was like the ultimate was the tour ended with the king's chamber, and the king's chamber was my birthday. And my roommate on the ship and on land had the same birthday I did.
Wait, the Queen's chamber had your birthday? What do you mean? You mean the
No,
date when
no,
we
I mean, when we went into the pyramid,
Uh-huh.
it was my birthday.
Oh.
And my
Oh.
roommate, the entire trip, had my birthday as well. So it's like we both had, they threw a party for both of us. And it was
Whoa.
like, how cool is it to go in the king's chamber on your birthday into a sarcophagus? And
That's
I'm
pretty
like,
awesome. That
yeah,
has to relate to why you don't remember the Queen's room too. I mean, there's something she took you to a party or something.
that has been the story of my life is
Is what the hell
uh,
happened? It
I,
sounds
I
like the
will have
recurring theme.
missing pieces. And
Yeah,
so
I get it. Yeah,
when
yeah,
I
I
was
get it.
with my leg surgery, I didn't share this, but I took one day dose of hydrocodone for the
Mhm.
pain.
Mhm.
and never took any more
Okay.
because
Keeping it.
I lost a week of memory.
Oh gosh. Yeah, that's
So
hardcore stuff.
people came and were saying it was so great talking to you, and I'm so glad I got to visit you when you were laid
You're
up. And I
like
was like, "We did what? You did what?" They're like, "You don't remember?" I'm like, "No." And so it's like to this day, it's like no matter what
Awesome.
I do, I cannot get that memory back.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm
Did you
like,
see Professor here, by the way, was the toilet seat down in the Queen's chamber?
"Oh
Just
yeah."
have to say that for the audio peeps. That's pretty good. I'm just telling you, I didn't know it was gonna unroll that way, but it's like one jaw drop after the other.
I
That's
know.
pretty intense one.
I haven't even gotten to France yet.
Oh, shit. Let's get to France. Let's do France. What happened in France? Was this after Egypt?
It was after Egypt,
Mhm.
and I'm on tour with a friend, and we stayed in a villa where there was like a bunch of rooms stacked on like town. We would call them townhouse type, where you have
Mhm.
the kitchen, living room downstairs, and then you had a sleeping area upstairs.
Mhm.
So we all had our own, but they were all combined, and we're at the foot of Rennes la Chateau. And yes, I love saying Rennes la Chateau.
I love French.
But so my best friend and I at the time, we were walking up, and we decide one night, let's go into town. It's nighttime. We all know Rennes la Chateau is huge in the Templar energies. It's huge in the Cathar religion. So we're like, let's go. And I'm like,
Mhm.
maybe we should wait. But then I'm like, no, let's go. We start walking up, and the road has bushes and little trees on both sides going up the side of this hill or mountain to the top where the city is. Well, as we're walking up, I keep hearing this rustling sound. And as we move faster, the rustling moves faster.
Mhm.
And I go to my friend and I was like, and we get to the base to where it's like you could almost see the gate, the stone that says Rennes la Chateau, and it's the entrance to the city. And I stop, and he's like, "Why are you stopping?" And I was like, in the out of my ears, I hear the rustling has stopped. My senses are all on high alert, and I'm like, I'm getting ready to go into like what I would call spiritual combat mode.
Oh, okay.
'Cause I'm
Yeah.
feeling
I
like
get
there's
it.
an energy here that isn't happy, and I'm like, I'm really starting to feel like, am I gonna have to defend myself? What's going on? And so I say to him, we can't be here. We have to leave. The guardians of the city are not happy that we're here. He's like, it's right
Ooh.
there. I'm like, I hear you, but something is not happy. We're here. I can feel it. And
Huh.
he's like, all right. So we turn and we walk down and we go back and we go to sleep. And the next day we're going around doing what we're going to do. And that night we decide, well, I was like, do you want to try again? And he's like, yeah, well, let's try again. So we go to see some ruins and we start walking up. And you'll love this with movie references.
Mhm.
Did you see the 13th Warrior
No. Oh, no.
with Antonio
Mm-mm.
Banderas
I don't
and the
remember.
Vikings? Well,
I might have been Okay.
they had a thing that they called the fireworm, which was a
Okay.
bunch of people with torches walking, and it looked like a fireworm.
Okay.
Well, coming from this holy mountain that's behind where we were staying is a fireworm walking straight down the mountain that's forests. So it's like the trees don't exist for them. As we're going up, we can see this fireworm walking towards us. And I'm like, either the Guardians aren't happy we're here or somebody's not happy we're here. And I was like, we got to do this quick. So we start walking up and we would stop halfway and we would look back and sure enough, it's still coming. And there's like this giant white light behind the mountain. Mind you, it's close to midnight, so there should be no lights.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, okay. So I'm like, there's no rustling in the bushes this time. So I'm like, all right, we're going. So we get up, we go, we take photos at the stone that says Rennes Chateau, and we quietly walk through town so as to not wake the people. And we get to the edge where they have, the history of what everything is around. And we can see there's like three areas where there's like this white light behind it. And it's like either there's a military base there or something's going on over there because that light does not match the cities on this side, which are little yellow lights
Mm-hmm.
here and there and mostly dark. So we're at the Tour Magdala and we walk around and he goes, I just heard something. I was like, go check it out. I didn't hear it. I take two steps, look up, and this lady in white is going like this across the way, looks at me, and enters the Tour Magdala. And I'm like, I just saw a lady in white. And she looked at me, and I was like, kind of frozen, going, trying to figure out what does this mean. And all of a suddenly, my friend pops up behind me. He goes, it was nothing. I didn't, I don't know what it was. And I was like, did you see that lady just walk across? And he goes, no. So we take probably 5, 6 steps and we look up, and at the end of this pathway that we're on are bushes. Well, inside the bushes are two red objects looking right at us. And I'm like, there's no cars up here.
Mm-hmm.
There's no road at that point. So the road had bent off and was going downward to the right. This is on the
Mm-hmm.
left.
Mm-hmm.
So I look at him and I go, you see this, right? He goes, you talking about those red eyes looking at us? And we started calling them eyes.
Were they
I'm
like
like, yeah,
pears?
yeah, there was
Oh.
one on each side looking right through the bushes. Like if we keep going, he was going to jump and grab us. So I was like, we take a few steps more. It's not moving. So I go, look, there's a path over here. Let's take it. So we take the path. We end up back at the main street, and we're like, all right, let's go back. We've been in town. Everything's good. We're copacetic. Let's just go home, and
Dream
process what's
about
going on.
eyes.
So we start walking down, and nothing's following us. So we're like, whatever that was up there, decided we're not worth the chase. So he's leaving us alone. And whatever was coming at us from the mountain disappeared. So we go lay down, we go to sleep. The next day, we end up at Castle Pouvert. And there's the story of the lady in white who's an omen of death that haunts this castle. And I'm like, yeah,
You
I saw
thought.
a lady in white. I will tell you, Heidi, I did not tell this story until about 2 years ago because
Did you
I
not
did not.
remember? Uh-huh.
No, it's not that I didn't remember. It's I
You
did
didn't.
not want to put people in harm's way of trying to prevent the lady in white from coming to get me. And then and that's why I didn't say anything while I was in France. And I figured as time went by, I was like, well, maybe I just imagined it and kind of just was like, until I saw a report of a lady in white, and then it's like my mind
Yeah, yeah, you didn't know that
started
story
back, and I was
before.
like, "Oh, wait a
So
minute."
where would you have got it? Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. Oh my
So, yeah,
gosh.
so I spent the
What are
entire,
you
like,
thinking?
half trip of France going and saying to myself, "I am not telling anybody any of this experience." I didn't tell
Huh.
the lady that was running the
No?
hostess that was running the tour, I didn't tell her either, and
Oh my
she
god.
when I finally told her, she goes, "Oh my god, Michael, you should have said something. We could have, like, helped you process it and realize that this is not maybe what you thought it was." And I was like, "Oh, no. I was not putting anybody at risk to try
Well,
and save."
your whole body sensed it. You got me at the story when you said your hair stood on end and everything.
Yeah.
It's like your body knew it was up. Quick question, and not to pivot or and hello to the chat. Um, when you were in France, when you're doing this, was this one of those you went to do investigations, or were you just doing tours for fun, like just to look at the area, and it just turned into a paranormal experience?
I was going to experience the Templars
Okay.
and the Cathars and all of the legends, and so
Okay.
paranormal was not on my radar yet.
Okay. It just keeps crossing your path.
I know. It's,
Wow.
I
Which is
can't
still makes me think of your two-year-old experience, so that was already tapped in something, so you're
I
seeing
know,
through the veil for sure.
I tell people I was raised in the paranormal. I used to say I was raised in, metaphysics, and now I'm like, "Yeah, I was raised in paranormal." They're the same thing
Uh,
nowadays.
well, I was raised on Transformers, hence your shirt. We gotta do
Oh,
the
the
callback.
Autobots.
Optimist. You missed our pre-talk, peeps. Um, oh my gosh, yeah, that was exciting one. That's a good one. Is that that's what happened in France then? So when did your friends say when you finally told them that you saw that lady in white and, did you tell
Most of
them
my friends
what you
were
saw?
like, "Okay, that's interesting," and it
That's
was
it?
like, well, because at this point, we had realized that there's 2 women in whites in the paranormal. One
Okay.
is it's just an apparition going about doing whatever it's doing.
Uh-huh.
And then there's the other one that is the omen, and we all figured since I'm still here, it wasn't the bad one. That's the omen one.
Oh my or if it was the bad one, didn't you guys stop from going any further though? And then the first time you got the hit to stop and not go in. Maybe they saw you were trying to not be so invasive or something. I don't know.
That's
I don't
what
know.
we think is the
Yeah.
Guardians let us in the second night because we were being respectful and we weren't going to go in and cause trouble.
Right. They let you go that far, but then you went far enough. Then they're like, whoa, that's trippy. That's a juicy one. That's good.
Yeah.
Jeez. Okay. Well, then what about the investigation stuff? You've been doing that for a while, and
So,
you actually work with teams to go do stuff. Is that correct?
yes, that started actually in 2018. So
Oh, okay.
that was like 4 years after all of this. It got,
Were
I
you
kind of
like, all
caught
right,
my
I'm a
dormant
magnet.
period.
Like I'm a magnet. I gotta like turn this into something. Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and
That's
I had UFO experiences between
okay.
France and start investigating. But what I found
Mhm.
was interesting is when I started paranormal investigating and I found out that this was real, that it wasn't just TV show, that people actually did this. So I was like excited. I was like, this is so cool.
Mhm.
And I would go and I would approach every investigation like I was going to work. And
Oh,
I was
cool.
like being very precise, very, professional, very, everything like you would expect that this was you were going to an office to work.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I was getting hardly any activity. It's like my senses weren't getting anything. I was like, how do people do this for fun?
Wow.
And do this as a living. There's nothing. It's like I'm getting nothing. And so then I started watching some shows, and one of the shows I watched was Haunted Live.
Mhm.
and they hazed one of their team members because it was his first investigation. And
Mhm.
so, and it was live, and I was like, and I go, well, these are famous investigators. If they can have fun, why the hell can't I? So then I started going and having fun and like goofing off a little bit and being, not so serious.
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, it's like the energy of the spirits being this when a professional starts to peak up and I start getting stuff. And I'm like,
Oh, cool.
oh, you gotta have fun to do this job.
It's probably because that's a higher vibration, that's a higher frequency when you're having fun, especially when you're
It is.
laughing, you're opening your soundtrack. It's like, "Oh, yeah, they're ready to play." And then they
Not only
start
that, but if you
moving
think
forward.
about it, I mean, some of these people have been there for 100 years and they're like, I'm bored with the people that are stiff and just coming in and asking questions and leaving. It's like, really?
They're
Are,
not
how
entertained.
how
They want
many
to be
years are
entertained.
we gonna do this?
Yeah. That's so cool. Tell me about one of your favorite investigations. Do you have one of those?
I do. So I was in a hotel that's owned by Connie and Dan LaFave, and
Mhm.
it's in Ballinger, Texas. It's called the Old Park Hotel.
Mhm.
And I'm on the second floor and I'm walking around and I'm doing a Facebook Live. First time, and I'm like, okay, let's see what this is like. And start walking into this room and I'm scanning, and all of a sudden my messenger on Facebook starts beeping and
Mhm.
beeping and beeping. And so many people are starting to write in. I'm like, guys, I'm on Facebook Live. I can't talk. What are you doing? Well, a friend of mine that I know from Ghost Ship Hunters messages me, and I go, "Okay, guys, I got to stop the live because I'm in what they call the poker room now." I'm like, "I gotta stop the live. I just got a message. I gotta go check what's going on because she does not message me." So I'm
Okay.
thinking there's an emergency. Something's
Yeah.
going on.
Yeah.
She goes, "You need to go back and watch your live." And I said, "What are you talking about?" They go, "There's a girl said something to you in there." And I was like, "What? There was no girl." I play the live back, and sure enough, as I'm panning the room, I get halfway, and this voice goes, "Leave me alone." And I walk out, and it's like, and I turn and I walk out. And then other people, I started reading their messages and comments on the live, and they're like, when you got in the hallway just outside the kids' rooms, they were calling your name. And I was like, I never heard my name called. And I didn't hear it. I still don't hear it on the video, but I'm like, everybody hears different. So I'm like, I'm sure they heard it. I'm not going to discount it.
It was alive. Yeah, that's hard
Yeah.
to yeah, they could have been the wow.
So it
Okay.
gets even better. A few months later, a friend messages me and goes, I went back and looked at your footage, and there's a little girl in that room. You not only did you hear her, you caught her. And I go, what? And a friend named Mary Jo taught me when you look in empty space and you see like fluctuations, if
Mhm.
you can take your finger and outline the outline of a person, you got a spirit. So I'm like, I'm looking where he sent me, and I'm going, okay, there's a round on the top, it drops down, and then it goes down, curves over, and goes up and down. And I'm like, I realize what I'm looking at, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, got this grin on my face because I'm like, I did catch. And sure enough, by the time I'm done outlining it, it's a little kid with their knees up to their chest, their arms around their legs. And I'm like, the girl says, leave me alone. Then there's this on the next
Ooh,
scan
that doesn't
over.
sound good.
I'm
Yeah.
like, "So there was a little girl there hiding
Yeah,
that I
she's
caught."
hiding, but you don't know what was happening. Oh, something doesn't sound good with it. Okay, go ahead, sorry.
Well, so then, it's about 6, 7 months passes, and I'm like, "Well, let me upload some of these videos to new channels. Let's share it out, and
Mhm,
let's, see what comes of it."
mhm.
Well, this time when I get to the crib where a doll was, before I hear the voice and see her, there's 3 taps on my shoulder I never heard before. And
How
I was like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa." I'm like,
you heard it in the replay or you
"I
you
did."
remember feeling it? You could
No, I
hear a
heard it
tap?
in the replay is because my phone is right here while I'm panning,
Uh-huh.
and all of a sudden you hear tut, 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 and I'm like, "Where did that come from?" That had to be something tapping my shoulder. And so
Oh.
I said to my team that I was with at the time, and I said, "Does anybody hear 3 taps on this?" And one of the ladies that I investigated with goes, "Well, every time I enter that room, something taps me 3 times." And so I was like, "So this is normal, okay." So then it's like I put the timeline together to where I walk in the room,
Mhm.
I turn, film the dolls that are on the bookcase, and then I get to the crib, 3 taps, pan, leave me alone, pan, catch the spirit, walk out of the room. And I'm like, something really wanted to get my attention, but I didn't hear it, so I didn't stop to. But
What?
to this day, when I go there and investigate, I'll always walk into that room and go, "Is the little girl here? I'm sorry I didn't hear you last time. I did leave you alone, but would you be willing to communicate now?" But I haven't been able to get a hold of her.
Oh. Say, are you okay? Do you need anything? Poor little thing. I just picture a kid sitting like that, with the arms around it, and I'm like, "Oh, they're scared." Sounds scared.
It's either
Aw.
scared or just, I mean, if you think about it, if the girl was, say, from the 1800s,
Uh-huh.
we're walking in now with devices in our hands filming
Yeah, you're
and
right.
like talking like
Yeah.
we expecting to hear them.
Time warpy stuff.
Or
She's tripping out.
she probably would be like, "Leave me alone," and be hiding because she's like,
True.
"You guys are demons or something,"
You're right.
because
Yeah, I get
we
that.
would be dressed totally different, our clothing was different, our mannerisms, our language, everything is completely different.
You've gone a few times, you said? You've gone a few times? You took
So, the way I judge it is this hotel has 10 rooms currently that you can sleep in.
Uh-huh.
I have slept in, I believe, 7.
Oh, wow. So,
So
yeah,
I
you're
still
going.
have a couple of rooms to go,
Yeah.
but I'm like,
Oh.
every time I go there, something different happens. And now we get to investigate a jail across the street where Bonnie Parker was, according to records, spent some time there.
Really?
So now
Oh.
we're all trying to figure out, did Bonnie Parker stay at the hotel? Because the town she was born is just a few minutes from Ballinger. So we're like, huh,
Hmm.
did they come through and stay, or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
how does this tie into that history? And it's like
Yeah. Oh, man. That's a good one. How far is it from you? From Dallas?
4 hours, give
Oh,
or
okay.
take.
Okay. Yeah, no wonder you've been popping over there. That's a trip. Yeah, if you ever go again, do another live or something. Don't or ask if she knows where she is or what year
Yeah,
it is. Or yeah, aw, I want to talk to her. I want to come.
yeah. I've been
Oh,
fortunate to go to a lot of cool places and
Sandy.
have a lot
Thanks.
of
Mhm.
fun
Mhm.
experiences.
Mhm. Thanks, Sandy. She's gonna bounce off. She's gonna catch again. I bet. Yeah. Can you tell us one more? I know we're winding in the time, but I want to hear another one, and then we're just gonna have to do another episode sometime.
So, all right. So the one I'll share now is kind of multi-parted because it was part of a road trip.
Build
And
is the
this
best.
was actually, so this one actually happened before team investigating, before I knew people went and did team investigations.
Mm-hmm.
A friend from Holland who I know through a Facebook group on the paranormal came and we were metal detecting and we were
Not
exploring.
each other, right?
Nope.
Okay.
And we were I was like, oh, let's go on these adventures. And so we went to the Grand Canyon together and went through Route 66, took them to see this like castle-like building that's on the border of Oklahoma and Texas.
I know that one. We just did Route 66 last summer. We went
Yeah.
all the way out to
And
Arkansas. Go ahead.
so
That's
we get
cool.
to Marshall, Texas, and we were supposed to spend the night in Jefferson, but the train's running all night. We're like in a tent going, we can't do this for the weekend. We got
Mm-hmm.
to go to Marshall. It's like 20 minutes down the road. It's quiet. We
Mm-hmm.
got to sleep. And so we get there, and so he's in his, he's laying on his bed. I'm laying on mine. I'm like, okay, I gotta go. I gotta check something. So I'm like, well, let me go to the bathroom for the night and wind down. So I'm in the bathroom checking my phone, and I hear Michael, and I'm like, I'll be right. I'm like, I'll be right out. Just
I'll be right
chill.
out.
I'm like, chill. I'm in my private space. And I hear my name again. So I'm like, all right. So finish up, wash my hands, walk out the door. He's asleep. So I'm like, dude, why are you calling my name if you're going to go to sleep?
Uh-huh.
Well, the next morning, he gets up at like 5 in the morning. And so I got up a little bit later and I go, so gotta ask, why were you calling my name last night? He goes, I didn't call your name. You called my name. And I said,
What?
I didn't call your name. And he goes, you called my name twice. And
What?
then I just went to bed because you weren't responding. So I was like, the same time we heard each other's names. So we're like, this is going to be an interesting road trip. So we do what we're going to do in the event for Jefferson. And then we
Mm-hmm.
decide we're going to go to West Virginia and Florida. So on the way over, we do the touristy thing. And when the sign said, welcome to Louisiana, we got up, we pulled over, took a photo, and
Mm-hmm.
we're like, yeah, so we're like having fun. We get to West Virginia, and a friend says, I got this haunted location for you. We're like, cool. So we get there, and it's a school. So we're like, this will be interesting. So we get there, and I'm in one classroom, they're in the hallway, and I walk into this closet. All of a
Now,
sudden, my shoulders start feeling this pressure, and I'm like, guys, I'm not going through the floor. I'm not a spirit like you are. It ain't happening.
can't
So
just
I'm
push me
like,
out. Mm-hmm.
enough. So I get in the classroom and I turn and I walk into the hallway, and my friend is adjusting his cap.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, got this look on his face. And I go, what? He goes, they just flicked my hat off of my head. And I'm like, wait, they're putting your hat, but they're trying to push me through the floor. I'm like, I want to
They're
hang out
fucking
with
with
your
you
spirit.
guys. They're fucking with you. Okay, go ahead.
So then we're like, okay. So I go and turn to go into the classroom on the other side because I like to go room by room, kind of
Mm-hmm.
methodically checking everything out, seeing what's around.
Do you have anything with you? Is this just your body's
It,
your like
using
sensor?
my phone.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm.
So I don't have any gear at this time, just using my
Okay.
phone.
Mm-hmm.
And to preface this, in the group, we would post like, if you saw this spirit, what would you do? And I'd always say I would stand and talk to it, no
Mhm.
matter how scary it looked. I was like, I'll stand my ground and talk to it. And he's like, I'm gonna run to the pub, so y'all do whatever you want. So I turn to go towards the classroom, and he turns to walk out to the main area off of this hallway, and we hear this giggle, and then we hear his name, and we turn and look at each other, and we're like nodding at each other, like, yes. We're not making any sound. We're like, yes, I heard it. And I don't know where it came from, but I heard it call your name. It's like we're having this silent conversation, and we hear it again. And we dart up the stairs, and I go through the door, and I'm out on the balcony. He stays behind the door, and there's this black spot by my shoe that looks really different. I'm like, it's not a knot in the wood. I'm like, I wonder what this is. So I took 3 photos with the digital camera that I also had on me, one of those high powered Nikon little portables.
Mhm.
And so I take the photos of it, and I'm like, who's there? Nobody responds. So we're like, all right. I go back and try to find him, and we regroup. And they go, well, there's this spot we want to show you on the top. And as we're walking up there, they go, now there's legend and urban legend that a student committed suicide here. So
Mm.
we're like, really? Yeah. Well, little did we know when we got up onto the level we were going on, we walked to the front, and there's this little cutout area where there's like 3 windows and the doorway to the room.
Mhm.
So I go in it, and I'm like, I instantly step back.
Mhm.
Every window is coated with flies. They're just buzzing away everything, and I'm like, this is like a horror movie right here. Moment.
And there were no other flies in the rest of the building? It's
No,
all in there?
it was they were all right there.
Yeah, that's
And
a bad
so
scene in a movie.
I was like, I take a step in again, and I'm like, I can hear them buzzing around me. They're leaving me alone though.
Mhm.
And I'm like, the energy feels really intense right here. So I back off, and we go, and my friend looks, and he sees the flies, and he goes, so you said a kid jumped from the building, right? And they said, yes, it was right here. We're like, that's what the flies are telling us. This is the spot that the student
Ooh.
jumped from, and it
Ooh.
left its mark. And so we leave, and we
How
get to the
tall? Sorry to interrupt. What he jumped from the window. How many stories was that? Or would he
probably, I believe, 3 or 4.
Oh, okay.
A
Okay.
much bigger fall than I had.
He wasn't a toddler. He wasn't 2. He didn't good
But
recall. Okay.
so we then split up. He does his thing. He's talking to the owner who's wanting to turn it into an art studio. And I walk around in the basement and come back up, and I'm like, okay, well, we'll head out because we're gonna go then to Virginia and see a friend, and then go to Florida. So we go, and the second we get to the car, my friend goes like this and says, "Thank you for not running." And I was like, "You're welcome." And it's like in that moment, it's like we solidified one of the greatest friendships ever, because we're still friends. We talk as much as
Aw.
we can, with him being in Europe doing his thing and me doing my thing over here. But we he'll reach out, and he'll be like, "How's your family?" And so it's like a real true friendship. And it's like,
Awesome.
I like to tell people, it was like that moment he knew I was authentic and true, that moment when I did not run, because I would say in the group, I'm not going to run. So he's like,
You're a man of your
run.
word. Yeah.
We're going to have words here. But
Yeah,
yeah, it
and you
was
got
like,
tested, and you
yeah,
still didn't run. Yeah, you aw, that's really cool. It's wonderful to have friends like that too.
yeah.
That just you guys have that moment, you're like, "Okay, we're bonded for life."
So what I took
Aw.
from that is
Mhm.
to be, your true self and everything. So I bring that to the shows.
Thank you, yes, tell me about the show. That's a perfect
And
round down. Wind down,
yeah,
round
and
down.
what
Mhm.
what I feel like why guests you included in this have so much fun on there is because I genuinely am like, let's just have a conversation. We don't need to have questions, anybody can do that. Let's just talk. And so that's where I developed with my theatrical background, conversational interviewing, where I can change and take the show wherever I want based on the answers to one or two questions
Mhm.
and make an hour show out of it and
Mhm.
amazes people. And I'm like, again, I'm trying to teach other people how to do it. But so I have on Tuesday nights at 9 o'clock Central Time is the energy that surrounds us. That is a paranormal based show where I talk with paranormal teams, or I'll talk about locations and have guests on that have been to some haunted locations and kind of share their view of the paranormal. And I'm starting to include ufology and some of the what I call fringe paranormal topics. And then on Wednesdays, for 3 Wednesdays a month, I do the show you were on, Riding Through the Unknown.
Mhm.
It's my esoteric series, and it's my little passion because I've always been drawn to the underground history, the true history that we've been told doesn't exist. And I'm like, I'm finding evidence of it. I talked to people who have found evidence of it.
Mhm.
And I'm
Mhm.
like, I wanted to give these people a platform for it. Well, I kept talking myself out of it because I was like, I have no name in the disclosure movement. So, and I know people are, this is a sensitive topic. So we have to trust who we're going on with.
Right. A lot of Agent Smiths.
And so I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this. Well, my
Mhm.
dad ends up passing last year in June.
Mhm.
And it was a project we had together where we would always talk about, this or that. And he'd be like, you should really share this. And I was like, nah, no one's going to listen to me. So I go and I was like, instead of drowning in sorrow and that, it's like I processed, yes, he's not here anymore. What could I do? And so I was like, I'm sitting there thinking, and I'm like, well, I could do this or this or this, but that's not really us. And so I go, well, so mind you, he passes in the end of June. The beginning of August, I launch Riding Through the Unknown.
Aw.
And I go,
Awesome.
I'm going to do this in his name and memory. Well, season one of it, I'll call it season one. I'll do 10 episodes. That means two a month.
Mhm.
I had 3 guests lined up
Mhm.
all of August and one for September.
Mhm.
And I go, I'm launching.
Mhm.
And I was a nervous wreck because I'm like, I don't have a season, but I just launched this new series. It's in a topic I have no name in. And so I had met Brad Olson at GSIC,
Mhm.
when it was in Florida, the first one. And I kind of had a moment where I talked with him and I was like, I have to be honest, my parents are really big fans of yours. And he goes, oh, well, let's take a picture for him. And I mean, he's a giant. He had to
Mhm.
squat down to get to my level. And we take a picture and I reach out to him on Facebook and I go, hey, I'm launching Writing Through the Unknown. Would you like to be my first guest? And so that's why
Aw.
when it comes to episode one, his episode, I go, and I'm happy to have Brad Olson on the show. And he goes, number one, I'm number one. And he's like, on the first episode. And so we had fun
Awesome.
with that. And it opened up the door to where by the time it got to be October,
Mhm.
I had the whole series booked. People
That's
were
awesome.
were like, "Oh, you should talk to this person." So I would reach out to them. They're like, "Yeah, I'll tell you my story." And I was like, and so what was interesting though is as the series progressed and the deeper I got into certain topics, I started having something in the back of my brain start going, there's a reason this is resonating with you and coming to you. And realizing I'm more involved in the esoteric than I thought. And so I'm like, okay, so the series went from being just disclosure and sharing esoterics to disclosure, esoterics, and my journey of
Mhm.
discovery of my involvement
Mhm.
with this certain area of it. And so I then decided with my cousin who does my intros and outros, I was like, hey, it's season two. We got to up our games. I'm going to call everything that happened last year, season one, even though it was 11 episodes.
Mhm.
I'm going to say we're going into season two. I'm just taking host rights. And so I said, we need to do something bigger and set the show apart. And so the intro that you got to see, I just sent to him, hey, I want to talk about these topics on the show.
That's he pulled
And he
yeah.
came
That's a
back
good
with
one.
it, and I was like, my jaw dropped. I was like, dude, where and how did you do this?
I know, it was
So,
really cool. Yeah.
so
It's
yeah,
really
so
cool.
I was like, man, I was
Nice.
blessed by that. And
Yeah. Well,
so my
you have those 2 series you host, but you also co-host on a few
right.
things, don't you? Mhm.
So I co-host Paranormal Versus, which is on Thursdays, and it was Kel Ridley in the UK and I for season one, and we were every 2 weeks. Well, we realized with health issues and with family issues, we really needed another person because where I had, say, 55 episodes weekly of one show,
Mhm.
we had like under 30 of the other show, and we're like, we had missed opportunities.
Hmm.
And so we're like, well, what can we do? So season three, or not three, season two, getting ahead of myself.
Manifest.
So season three will be coming soon, just not yet. Gotta finish season two first. But so Kel, what was funny about it is I was watching her on somebody else's show, and I was talking to her, and I'm like having this conversation with her, and she finally messages me and she goes, can you understand me? And I go, yes, I can totally understand you. She goes, so many people have a hard time with my accent. I'm like, not me. You're like speaking normal English to me, so
Uh-huh.
I don't,
Mhm.
so I'm not
Mhm.
phased by it. And she's
Mhm.
like, do you want to do the show with me? And this is the kind of show I'm thinking about. I was like, yeah. So that's how Paranormal Versus started.
Okay.
And
That's a fun one.
so,
I've caught that a few times. Mhm.
yeah. And so season two, we decided to bring a third host in that's also in the UK.
Mhm.
And it just happens to be Kel's fiance.
Mhm.
And he does the music for the show. So we're like,
Nice.
he popped in every once in a while anyway to
Mhm.
kind of help out. And so we're like, dude, why don't you just become the host? And this way, if one of us can't make it, we still have two. We can still do the show.
Mhm.
Well, we thought that was great. And we were like, and then Cal and I were like, the show was so popular. We had so many people on a waiting list. What should we do? And I was like, let's do three a month. She's like, yeah, four is too many right now. Let's just do three. I was like, yeah.
Mhm.
So unfortunately, family and health issues didn't allow us to start in January like the rest.
Mhm.
But we got one episode in February. So we are like, this is our grand entrance, and everybody was enthralled and we had cool guests. And so now what we've done is, because there's three of us and there's three episodes, we're kind of as hosts playing a game with the audience of
Mhm.
trying to let them figure out which show is whose. Because I bring in a guest for one of the shows.
Uh-huh.
Her fiance Matt brings in his guest. She brings in a guest. And so it's like we're all like, yeah, and we'll ask questions just like normal. But it's like, unless you carefully watch, you won't notice unless we flat out say, well, since this is your guest, how do you want to do this or that?
Mhm.
We're like,
Mhm.
yeah, we're waiting to see
Sharing the
who
load. Mhm.
everybody thinks is going to be coming on. And so
Mhm.
we're having a lot of fun with it.
Good. It's a fun one. So, and that's not live, right? It's recorded?
They're all live.
They're all live? That one was I heard one. I was sitting on the 405 listening to you guys because I love the
So,
accents too. People are always like, "You can understand me?" Even Neil and Terry B and stuff. I'm like, "Yes." We're actors. We didn't even get
so
into our acting scenarios. We're gonna.
I know, and so I actually have to correct it. Is so energy that surrounds us. I had to learn how to pre-record because I was having guests in the UK.
Okay.
Well, that's 3 a.m. their time when I go live. So I'm like, I'm not making them get up.
Right.
And riding through the unknown, some of the guest schedules don't work. And so I was like, well, let's pre record. We can go live,
Mhm.
air it live, and, you can go to work, do what you need to do, and we'll still get the episode in.
Okay.
And then Paranormal Versus, we finally had, because the team that we were interviewing was in Arizona and they didn't realize with the times, because Arizona doesn't follow daylight
Oh, yeah, yeah,
savings.
yeah. Yeah.
And so we're like, we're going live at this time. And they go, well, we're at work. We can't go live. And we're
Mm,
like, what? So we recorded it the Saturday before,
mhm.
aired it, and
Mhm.
all of a sudden funny story is because when it's pre recorded, I don't watch the show. I'll go and watch something else or I'll
Okay.
relax and do something else. And all of a sudden, my phone starts dinging. And I'm like, everyone's going, where are you? And I'm like, what are you talking about? They're
Mhm.
like, we're in the chat room. I'm like, what chat room? Turns out they all had decided, even though they couldn't go live, they could chat. So
Mhm.
everybody was chatting together about the
Aw.
show during the show. And so
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like, oh. So I was late to the party.
yeah. But then when people aren't doing podcasting, so they don't know all the logistics that get involved. I mean, there is the scheduling that gets so crazy, and the timing you air, whether you
Yeah.
record or air, and when do you premiere it, and when do you go live. Yeah, there's all these little bits, and that's the tricky bit. But you did bring up a very important part, and this is where I'll start winding down, closing the show here. Is the chat. And so thank you so much to this community chat over here. I've been seeing you all there, and welcome Wildberry Candy Company. I joined you a while ago. Mr. Tim Mothman sent us over there, and I'm loving it. So I'm excited for you, Miss Wildberry. So thank you for being here. And yeah, I'm thanking everybody here. And Mr. Michael, thank you so much. I think we're gonna have to do our own little acting episode. Maybe we'll
We
do us
are.
with a few others, and we can just dive into the theater because because the theater, the acting.
Love it. I would totally be down because
That'd be so fun. But I am excited because these are the story you interviewed me so well. I wanted to turn the table a little bit, but I didn't know these stories about you. So thank you for sharing all
oh,
these
you
with
you
me.
did a great job too.
Thanks. Thanks. I try.
And so one tidbit I'll say is I normally don't share on my shows that like I have the theatrical background because I don't want people to think, oh, he could be faking this or that.
Oh,
And I'm like, no,
come on,
it's totally
peeps.
legit. But I was like,
Yeah.
so in full transparency, because Heidi and I have theater background, she's the only one that got a bio that says, here's my theatrical history of being from elementary school to freshman in college studying theater and how
That was
being
your bit. Yeah, yeah.
improv, helps
Yeah.
with being able to run the shows and because I can
Mhm.
change topic on the fly because of games
Mhm.
like Breeze Improv. And
Yeah. Yeah.
so I was like,
Improv podcasty, it helps being doing public speaking. So
it
we're
does.
both theater nerds, peeps. Like that's where you could find us when we were in
So this is
school.
an exclusive just for Heidi's.
Yeah, thank you. Aw. Well, then we won't do too much more into it, but it's
Oh
fun.
no, I'm
Mostly,
happy to.
mostly to just the reference. We both watched those awesome 80s shows and 90s shows, and we know the slang, and we have one-liners, and we watch stuff.
Yeah.
So we got a Rolodex in our brain of all this good stuff.
And
Cool.
as she said that we we talk all the time that we will throw in the chats a lot of the references and we're like, yeah, I know that reference. And we'll retort back and forth with different references.
Well, let's end it with a good callback, like the improv days. We gotta do a callback, and let's bring it back to that 2-year-old bouncing baby. If you caught it, jumped in late, you gotta start from the beginning because we heard how 2-year-old Michael went from 3 stories, or no, two now, three to the basement, two to the basement.
No, still
Um,
be three because it was the second floor,
if it
first floor,
includes
then
in
basement.
the basements, 3 stories, but how he had assistance on the way. Not
Yep.
only something pulling him in, but something protecting him too. And he had about 10-minute time loss too. Still trips me out. I still feel like you have a gazillion more stories, so we'll have to get into
I
that.
do.
But okay, well then we'll do it again. So yeah,
Happy to come back.
thanks for having a high vibe chit chat with me. The 25th episode, the High Vibe Human Experience Hangout, where I just love talking with my pals online, especially cyber pals. We haven't met in person, but I'm sure we will one
No.
day. And yeah, thanks for taking me on that ride. That was really fun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and
thank you for coming on my show and
absolutely. Yeah, Tuesdays and Wednesdays you can catch Michael's shows. And Paranormal Versus, when was that one? That was
Thursdays.
Thursday. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. You're covered. And then Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because I don't have a particular day yet, but I'm trying to
Yeah.
stick to Saturday, Sundays. Oh, this is my alarm clock, by the way. He's like, what's you taking so
Yeah.
long? It's
So Crossroads Meets the Ocean Rose, that is a lady I have recently met.
oh, hi. Mm-hmm.
And what was funny is her birthday was on Tuesday.
Oh,
Um,
happy late birthday.
last week I think it was, and I
Uh-huh.
was on show, or maybe it was this week. But I mentioned it was her birthday, and my guest goes into singing "Happy Birthday" to her. And so I was
Oh,
like, That's what I love about being able to improv and do the
That's
shows is
awesome. Well, I
you
won't
never know what's
sing
gonna
because I
happen.
never sing, even with the kids. I was always the goofy singer, like da, 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 like I would just never be. If Sandy was still here, she'd be singing right now. She sends me the best voice clips of just little songs and notes she does. But me, I'll send the funny one. So happy birthday, Crossroads. And I see you, Carol and Jane. Thank you so much. They're modern, and I just appreciate this community so very much. Trevor, I saw you along for that whole ride, so thank you for that. And to Mothman, you guys are rock stars. Thank you very much. Catch it. Please sign up, like, and subscribe. Mr. Michael's shows. Gary put the links in the chat. If you are on YouTube and Facebook, all the links should be below. Rumble, I'll add it just a bit after here. And X, I think I'm on X again. I still can't log in, but they go there. It says it up there. So someone's watching it. So please subscribe to Mr. Michael. You're on TikTok and all the social medias too. I mean,
Right.
I'm permanently banned from TikTok, but I know you're on there. And all the other stuff. You can find them everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, all the things. So check out my pal Michael. And thanks for having the chit chat. And stay right there. We'll talk for a minute. Bye, everybody.